So first of all, good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here in the session wherein we talk about the digital SMBs 2.0, unlocking billion-dollar opportunities for India's future. So first of all, I'll take you through the report and what the whole report is about and what is the objective of the report. The objective of the report is to provide a segmentation view on how the SMB ecosystem in India is segmented by personas and further delve into the customer buying journey about how an SMB typically in India buys products, what are the key parameters that they evaluate while buying their technology solutions. So talking about who is the target audience for this report. Any CXOs, strategy/product development heads from tech ISVs or large enterprises or startups, including aggregators, are the perfect target audience for the report. So moving on, what is the definition of a small and medium business? So any business with a headcount between 1 to 999 is considered as a small and medium business. The ownership of the business should be either a proprietor, a partnership, or an LLC, which is registered with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The origin of the founders of this SMB should be India, and their headquarters should be primarily in India. The SMBs that we have considered for analysis in the report are the traditional verticals, and they exclude the emerging SMBs like delivery partners and driver partners, etc. So we have broken down the whole SMB ecosystem into primarily three ecosystem partners, which are micro, small, and medium. The micro SMBs are those SMBs which have employees in the range of 1 to 25, or their revenue is less than $0.6 million. The small category is with the full-time employees between 26 to 100, or their revenue ranges from $0.6 to $6 million. The medium range is from 101 to 999, and the revenue ranges from $6 million to $31 million. So what we have done in this report here is to try to answer the questions that are frequently raised by the ecosystem. So first of all, answering the first set of questions here, where are we today and how did we get there? So as Gaurav pointed out earlier, 74 million digital SMBs in India will contribute to almost 50% of Indian GDP by FY 2027. Right? So we have a strong base of 70 million SMBs currently in India, which is projected to reach 74 million by FY 2025. These 70 million current SMBs employ 110 million people, which will reach 145 million by FY 2025. So the overall SMB base is expected to reach pre-COVID levels by the same year, wherein manufacturing sector contributes to 7% of overall Indian GDP. Moving on, what are the top segments that have evolved in the sector? As COVID and in the pre-COVID and the post-COVID pandemic era, logistics has been a key vertical that has evolved. So when we break down these SMBs by count, retail sits at the top with 28 million SMBs, followed by manufacturing with around 14 million SMBs, and a new entry this year into these top three lists is the logistics vertical with almost 5 million SMBs. So as you see, the breakup of the 70 million SMB base is 61 million traditional SMBs and 9 million emerging segments. So for this report, we'll be focusing on this 61 million as a base to solve for. So talking about some key insights, what we have witnessed is that the retail and the logistics vertical has seen an astonishing growth of over 30% in the past 1 year. The manufacturing SMBs on an average spend almost 1.4x on IT as compared to a retail SMB. So talking about what has changed in the past decade, how does an SMB of 2012 look like versus an SMB of today? So anything and everything has changed. Talking about the economic environment, the SMB, which was a decade ago, was still recovering from the business impacts of the 2008-9 crisis, whereas an SMB of today has rebounded in the post-COVID era. The SMB in 2012 was very, very satisfied with its local role in the ecosystem. But an SMB of today has national and global ambitions. The digital influence of an SMB in 2012 was an early smartphone adoption with almost no social media and web presence. But an SMB of today is digitally influenced. It uses applications like WhatsApp and Facebook for crucial and business productivity and other digital funnel entries. Talking about the digital maturity scale of an SMB, right? How does an SMB evolve in its journey? Chat-based commerce and discovery e-commerce is the new normal. In the way one, a very, very digitally unsavvy SMB just registers itself on one of the aggregator platforms such as Just Dial or IndiaMart and has an aggregator-led discovery model. Once the SMB starts maturing, it moves to social media such as Facebook and Amazon or to sell its products. Once they exhaust their customers on these mediums, then they move to independent e-commerce storefronts such as a Shopify to sell their products and widen their range. So the SMB of today is also using discovery e-commerce, wherein it is interacting and selling its products and providing a good customer experience via WhatsApp or enabling its customers on applications like Cred, wherein the customers are actually rewarded for the points that they spend so that the SMB can have repeat customers coming and buying products from them. Moving on, when you talk about an SMB of today, which we call a digital SMB 2.0, how do we divide them into different personas? So the first persona is a content persona, wherein it is a typical mom and pop store with one or two employees, which is very, very satisfied with their current state of business and has very, very low knowledge of how technology solutions evolve and is using probably a transactional enabler or a Paytm or a WhatsApp to sell its business. Next is the growth plus persona, which is the Gen X or a Gen Y kind of a persona, which may own its website, and primarily the business is driven by word of mouth. The next persona is a risk taker persona, wherein these guys start to evolve technology solutions. They understand what technology is. They may own a website, they may own an e-commerce platform, and their expectations from a technology solution is a freemium to low cost solutions. But the next persona is the tech plus persona, which is the most mature persona, wherein they follow aggregator led models to independent models. They have some kind of automated tools installed. They have a dynamic website. They have an e-commerce storefront, and they have very, very significant exposure towards digital marketing. So this is the whole persona breakup that we have done. And you will see the content, the growth plus, the risk taker, and the tech plus personas, individual insights in the report further. So talking about the opportunity, the content persona accounts for the most untapped opportunity in the Indian ecosystem. The ecosystem currently has a tapped opportunity of around $15 billion, wherein the total opportunity lies upwards of $63 to $65 billion. So one can see that the huge market potential that an SMB offers. And by FY 2028, this untapped opportunity in the Indian ecosystem and the total opportunity will be almost close to $100 billion. So the content persona per se in the current state has almost 88 to 89% of the total opportunity that has not been tapped currently. In the growth plus persona, we have a wide range of 75% as an opportunity that can be still tapped by anybody who's selling a software solution to these SMBs. Moving on to the next set of questions, how have the needs of an SMB evolved? And how did it impact their buying journey? Talking about what are the key business priorities, apart from the obvious scalability and growth, improving customer retention and optimizing cash flows are the new focused business priorities of an SMB, which have evolved in the post-COVID era. In the pre-COVID era, an SMB was just focused on growth. But now, in the post-pandemic era, the SMBs also focused on their internal operational efficiency, wherein improving customer retention and optimizing their own cash flows has become their number one priority. What we also gauged from the survey that we are referring to here, so what we did was we surveyed around 100 SMBs in the Indian ecosystem to gather all of these insights for you. And the key insight that we got out of it was that 86% of the mature persona SMBs are focusing on scalability and growth belong to the manufacturing vertical. Almost two-fifths of the mature persona in the SMBs determined to improve customer retention belong to the IT/ITES vertical. Moving forward, talking about the IT investment priorities, as I talked about operational efficiency being a key factor, almost every second SMB today wants to boost its operational efficiency. And how are they doing it? They are doing it by adopting IT solutions. So their investment priorities go by boosting operational efficiency and high ROI realization, followed by automation of workflows and regulatory push. Hence, to enable this growth, they are heavily investing into technology solutions. Now, where and from which capital are they investing into these solutions? So, almost 50% of the investment that is being made into these technologies is from the existing profits. And almost 32% is from the multifold growth that an SMB witnesses. Now, whenever an SMB is buying a technology solution, who are the key influencers that influence the buying decision? So almost 55% of the decisions are influenced by internal IT and admin teams. And the rest of it is influenced by, let's say, a system integrator or by word of mouth via family, friends, and relatives. What is very, very important to note is that 46% of the matured persona SMBs choose existing profits as an avenue to fuel their IT investments. And majority of the SMBs choosing to raise money from private lenders belong to the content persona. Moving on, what are the parameters that an SMB evaluates before buying a technology solution? So typically one would think that an SMB is inclined towards a low cost ROI justified solution. But no, what we also found out that a user friendly and an easy to use solution is what an SMB is looking for. Whenever they are evaluating technology solutions, that is the primary factor, followed by low cost and also followed by easy to deploy. So an SMB is ready to pay that extra buck if the solution that they have found is a user-friendly one, which is a very, very easy to plug in, play, and an omni-channel experience wherein the SMB owner can not just justify and see its business flourishing via a PC, but also on the mobile tablet. So an omni-channel experience is the must. 44% of SMBs from the growth persona value simple user interface while shortlisting a digital solution. Moving on to the next set of questions, how is the supply side ecosystem supporting the growth that the SMBs is witnessing? And what is the way forward? So the ecosystem, we have 4 ecosystem entities that are boosting this growth, starting with the government, startups, large enterprises, and tech ISVs. So we'll deep dive into each of these segments going forward, starting with the government, right? So what we have done here is across all the 4 types, we have categorized them into build, buy, and partner categories to provide a holistic view of how the ecosystem is supporting the SMBs. So recently, India's finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, has invited Japanese investors and business leaders to explore investment opportunities in the country, specifically targeting to the SMB segment. Also, to strengthen economic ties with India, Japanese Prime Minister Kishida-san plans to provide India with an investment of upwards of $42 billion in the next 5 years. ONDC is an upcoming category wherein Zoho has partnered with the whole ecosystem to integrate Zoho Commerce onto the ONDC portal to enable these SMBs to create their digital storefronts almost instantly. Moving on, we have a lot of startups that are typically focusing on SMBs, wherein let's cite an example of Swiggy, which has launched Swiggy Minis, which will enable these SMBs to sell products in India with no commission being charged. We also have Plum, which has partnered with Visa to provide a comprehensive and affordable health insurance plan to its SMB cardholders. We also have India Pesa, which is a digital banking infrastructure provider, which is providing the marketplace that an SMB is building with all of the digital banking financial servicing needs. Moving on, we have tech ISVs and tech giants such as Fujitsu, which have launched network compatible scanners specifically catering to the needs of an SMB. We also have Entity Data, which has received a principal approval from the Reserve Bank of India as a payment aggregator license, which will help the SMBs get access to their payment options and increase their security. Moving on, we also have companies like Konica Minolta, which has partnered with Brother International to expand their product offerings and launch innovative products for print, imaging, labeling, and sewing, specifically catering to the SMB customers in India. We also found that Canon has launched a 4-in-1 laser printer, including a color multifunction printer, which specifically caters to the SMB's needs of cutting printing costs. So what has been happening recently is that the Indo-Japan corridor has been expanding. Relations between the two countries have been improving. So we have categorized them into past, current, and future. So India has witnessed a $38 billion investment in the form of FDI from Japanese investors in the last 2 decades, out of which 14.4 billion worth of exports were made from Japan to India in FY 2021-2022. Currently, as we talked about the government playing a very important role in the whole ecosystem, so the government has allowed 100% FDI in both greenfield and brownfield opportunities in the countries. We have close to 1,450 Japanese businesses that have their regional presence in India. Also talking about there being a $38 billion FDI in India in the last 2 decades, for the future, we have $42 billion of investment that was announced by the Japanese Prime Minister in India in the next 5 years. So what we can see over here is that the total investment that was being made in India in the last 2 decades will be surpassed by in the next 5 years alone. A $300 million Ganesha fund was established by MUFG to invest into Indian startups. So overall, the Indo-Japanese corridor has been expanding, and the relations between the two countries are not just related to trade, but also evolving the whole ecosystem as a whole. This was all for the presentation. Thank you very much. We are open to any Q&A.
Thanks, Sabri. I just had a look at the question. So talking about these initiatives that government has taken place related to ONDC, NLP, and PLI scheme. While these are very interesting initiatives to boost the overall economy, e-commerce economy of India, right? I think it is a very exciting times that we are seeing right now in India today, where a lot of ecosystem players are coming in, are joining hands, and are helping the businesses grow in India, right? So these schemes such as ONDC, I'll just take a quick brief moment to talk a little more in detail about these initiatives. In case if the guests who are attending this session don't know about these initiatives in detail. So as you all may have heard about this buzzword called ONDC, which is nothing but just Open Network for Digital Commerce, right? Where it is an initiative that it is a government-backed initiative that aims to create a unified marketplace for e-commerce in India and to reduce dominance of few larger players who have created a monopoly over the years, with the likes of Amazon, Flipkart, and so on and so forth. While the National Logistics Policy is another government-led initiative which aims to reduce the overall logistics cost by 13 existing cost to 13 to 14%, right? Answering the question here to what specifically Babuji had asked for, I think that what as a Japanese enterprises can look forward to is a multi-pronged approach. That they need to also deeply understand these new regulations and policies, which we as consultants can help them understand, and what are the new regulations also coming up in these space. So being aware about the latest happenings that are going on to this ecosystem is very relevant and very important for any Japanese company looking to enter into India alongside with these initiatives, right? Another thing that they need to also look forward to is that, like even Manan talked about, that how has the technological evolution taken place even in respect to SMBs today, right? So an SMB 10 years back used to rely on very basic sort of technologies, and nowadays they're getting more aware and aware about different set of new technologies that they can leverage to upskill their business. So having a focus on any product or any services that they are offering currently and they want to tap into the Indian ecosystem, they should also pivot their strategies around these new technologies that can help businesses and the overall ecosystem to grow. And lastly, I would say that the most obvious sort of approach would be to look out for newer businesses and local businesses and partner with them to tap into this ecosystem so that they can leverage and build solutions at scale. And like Gaurav also said, that right now we are at a juncture where we are just not building solutions for India, but we are building solutions for the global economy as well. So we have seen a lot of startups, a lot of businesses building solutions in India, which are being replicated to the global model as well.
And yeah, just to summarize, thanks Chetan, I think, for providing the perspective. Just to summarize at all up level, probably we need to look at 3 or 4 dimensions like Chetan just spoke, right? Number one, obviously the regulation criteria, which he spoke about in detail. I think the second and the key ingredient for this would be also to understand from the TAM perspective, right? What is the opportunity currently? Let's say specifically from things like ONDC or the National Logistics Policy, which is actually aiming at bringing down the logistics cost from 14% to 8%, right? And also the third part which will be important is the use case or the workload where we are thinking of, let's say, customizing certain solutions specific to the India market. We spoke about Swiggy, we talk about use cases such as the payment use cases where or the digital payment use cases where players like Paytm and we are seeing multiple players, getting traction and helping SMBs, in their digital payment journey. So yeah, I mean, these are the 3 or 4 things that definitely should be into consideration while the Japanese companies look to enter the India market. I think I see another question. I think this is Dheeraj. Hi, Dheeraj.
Good, Pranav, if I might take this.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Talking about, so Dheeraj, I sort of understand of where you're trying to allude to. So we have done the analysis while we have considered these segmentation of these SMBs across different verticals. As you may have seen, one walking you through the current sort of segmentation where we have seen the logistics have bumped up to the 3rd position when it comes to having the most amount of SMBs, right? Given the recent developments and initiatives within the overall ecosystem, when we talk about the Indian economy, initiatives like National Logistics Policy, ONDC, these sort of trends that we are observing, we feel that the next wave of employment is also expected to come out of mostly which will be dependent upon is through the retail segment as well as the logistics segment, where a lot of disruptions are happening when it comes to technologies. You may have seen Swiggy, Zomato, and other likes of last mile logistics provider, right, growing up in scale. There are many local freight providers that have started to deliver packages from point A to point B, where the people are not able to commute due to long distances, right? So these kind of disruptions we are able to see in the market, and we feel that logistics will still continue to grow as a vertical overall, and it will create the most amount of employment as well in the coming years.
Sure, I hope that addresses, and I think there's one more follow-up question from you, Bapuji, where you want to check that if you have done any analysis on the effects of ONDC. So I can talk about few of perspectives specifically for ONDC. I think you must be reading it. There's a lot of buzz about this, right? So I think by the time it got into traction, the pilot was done. We saw that almost few weeks of launch. There were almost 31,000 registered merchants on the platform, and there was almost 3.7 million products on sale. Talking about their ecosystem partnerships, yes, they were able to penetrate into multiple logistics players, which have decent traction in India. Also getting into digital payment space with the likes of Paytm and a PhonePe. In terms of financial services, also they were able to get major chunk of the biggest of the private lenders in India with the likes of ICICI or an HDFC Bank, and likewise some of the VCs in the form of Excel and Secure Capital, plus Bharti Airtel and Vodafone Idea on the telecom side. So in a nutshell, yes, there was decent traction when it comes to the positive side of it, because initially the plan was to start launch in few of the cities, 4 or 5 cities, and then probably get almost 900 million buyers and almost 1.2 million sellers on board. That's the vision of the Indian government. But like there are some positives in the game. Definitely there were some lowlights where ONDC struggled initially, I would say, and it was obvious also. Initially there were challenges specific to payment reconciliation, a lot of delivery hiccups when it comes to delivery hiccups and the logistic hiccups. So that's the area where technology must definitely solve for it, and there are opportunities for multiple players to look for those specific pain points in the journey and probably look at solving that. Number two low light, what we witnessed and what we heard from some of the people were the ineffective tracking of the product listings and the inventory which was there on the network. Because ultimately, you would agree that the consumer trust which is there and the empathy is getting at stake. And first and the third and the foremost important, which I think the majority of ecosystem is struggling, is on the return and refund management. Because currently, if you talk about the India market, I would say the return rate when it comes to the e-commerce segment comes to around 25 to 30%. So the more returns, the more rejections, the more tough it will get, for the player. So I would say this is some bit on the positive and the low light side of the business specific to the ONDC that we are witnessing. With respect to national logistics policy, I think in the sites will be minimum. Like I shared that there have been some amendments with respect to the policy where the target is that we bring the cost down to the cost of the developed countries of the US or the Singapore. Maybe we can connect offline, Bapuji, for detailed, chat in terms of, what we are witnessing. I hope that addresses the question.
Pranav, I can just take it up from here. So, hi, Dheeraj. We had a follow-up question from you wherein you have asked which segment will generate more employment, right? So, as a next version of the report, we'll be launching another report in Q3, which will be specifically talking about the growth in employment, and it will give the bifurcation about the growth that will be witnessed. Let's say in a hypothetical situation, we witness a 30 million growth in employment, which will be the sectors that will predominantly have and witness that growth. So the complete bifurcation by verticals of the whole growth will be provided in the report. So I hope you look forward to that report. And as a follow-up question from Vijay Kumar, any incentives or concessions that the Indian government is offering for foreign SMBs? Chetan, do you want to take this on?
Sure. Thanks, Manan. Thanks, Vijay, for the question. I believe that so recently, what we have also discovered is that the government has allowed 100% of FDI to be invested in any businesses in India, right? So I think this is a very attractive incentive that a government is providing, that for any sort of enterprise that is registered outside of India and they want to partner and work with any business in India, being it a small scale SMB or a large scale enterprise, the government has allowed 100% of FDI. So in case if you're looking to enter into a market and you may be hesitant about how much amount of investments you can do into a business, I believe this is one of the very attractive propositions that the government has done. Along with the lines of 100% FDI, there are certain other tax benefits and financing support that government also offers. So specifically for foreign SMBs, there are a number of tax benefits that are being provided by the government, right? And it includes in terms of exempting custom duties and also introducing certain level of rebates in corporate taxes as well. Along with this, there are, in case if any foreign entity or a foreign enterprise wants to avail certain financing support from the government, there are certain schemes that provides guarantees and loans in terms of the in respect to these foreign entities looking to enter into India. Along with this, there are access to government procurement as well. So they can bid for government procurement contracts for sourcing of revenue, for major sourcing of their revenue as well. And along with the lines of like how our Prime Minister Modi also focuses a lot upon building training and skills within India, there are other programs and initiatives that also can be leveraged by these foreign SMBs or foreign businesses who are planning to enter into Indian market to look into these training programs. For many such other details, I can help you sort of drop a little links in these in the chat here, for organizations such as Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, wherein you would be able to see these exact numbers and figures related to these tax benefits and the FDIs available in detail. And there are other websites related to Ministry of Commerce of India, the MCI website, as well as Invest India, which will help you gain deeper insights into it.